Hello everybody and welcome into the Grindstone Development's late model stock tour live tonight from the famous Martinsville Speedway. We got a good one in store and thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. It was an off week last week for myself. These guys though were back in action. It was not as good of a race as I guess they were planning on it because we got some new rule changes in place here tonight and we'll go over those as things get rolling. But before we do that, let's get right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. The man who takes the pole is the same man who won the first race of the season and has won another one since then. James Harris in the 55 rolls off from the first position, put down a 20 flat to get himself that front starting spot. Tyler Meeks will roll off to his outside in second in the number 7 machine here tonight. Then back in third, it's going to be Brad Thacker in the Sunoco number 56. Jason Machad rolls off to the outside of row 2 and fourth. It's going to be Jason Nethery back in the 5th spot with Andrew Hale in 6th. William Mann Jr. 7th. Wesley Shaw 8th. Sheldon Pearson back in 9th. And it's going to be Kevin Kirchar rounding out the top 10. Moving on back to row number 6. In the 11th position tonight, we'll start the 48 of George Young. Josh Graff to his outside in the 12th position in the number 30 machine. Moving on back to row number 7, it's going to be John Legger on the inside with Chris Logan to his outside in 14th. Eli Childs race control tonight, so disregard that. Charles Whitehead, though, will roll off from that 16th and final starting position here tonight. Taking a look at your race info, it is the Martinsville 125. Just as we do every race this season, the distance going to be 125 laps. Martinsville, also nicknamed the Paperclip, very famous when it comes to stock car racing. Track length just under half a mile, and we are back under the lights. 78 degrees in the sim, 77 degree track temp, so grip shouldn't be too much of an issue. Partly cloudy skies, calm winds. What more could you ask for a night of racing here at the famous Martinsville? We got a lot to talk about still throughout the race in terms of points and schedule moving forward, and we'll get to all of it. But before we do that, field getting one final check of the tires, and we are getting ready to go at it. Slowly getting closer to the halfway point of the season. It's been crazy already. We'll talk about the new rules here tonight, but the idea is to make it a little bit cleaner. How is that going to change tonight? Will it be chaos or will it be tame? Let's find out. Here we go. James Harris into the restart zone. Green flag in the air. We are underway at Martinsville. Lap 1 in the books. James Harris started on the pole, and he was able to hold on to the lead for the entirety of lap 1. Meeks settles into second, Thacker third. Still a little 2x2, though, behind Jason Machad. Jason Nethery going at it briefly. And, you know, I feel like sometimes we talk about the outside line working here. Oh, watch out. 46 is loose. Machad's going to go around, and he'll collect a couple others. Now the 4 gets involved with Wesley Shaw. Caution out for the first time here tonight. Hard to tell who got the worst. I think it might have been the 4, though. We'll get you exactly who that was here in just a moment. A lot of these guys running different schemes, but that was Andrew Hale, making what I believe might be his first start of the season here tonight. That's not the way you want to start it. Takes it down to the pits, and he'll have to get some repairs. Let's go back and look at this here. Early chaos, and it all started with what looked like the 46 of Jason Machad just getting a little sideways here as they were getting out into 3. And I was just getting ready to say, most tracks, or rather some of the other series like the Xfinity trucks, we talk about maybe you can make the outside work here. I really don't think we'll see that in the late model stocks, especially when it's nighttime and there's this much grip. Hard to tell. William Mann Jr. definitely coming up the track. I'm not sure if there was contact or a little bit of netcode between these two. Watch as they actually dive down into the corner. William Mann Jr. a little bit later to turn in, and yeah, it looks to me right there like William Mann Jr. just carrying a little bit too much speed, but he doesn't actually hit him. Definitely is a little bit of netcode between those two, so it'll be interesting to see how the newly added live race control will decide to go about deeming this one. Yeah, there's definitely no contact. That's more than probably a foot worth of netcode between those two. You see that gets Machad out of shape, tries to save it, and then Andrew Hale in the back, not able to check up in time. He runs into the 29. That ricochets him up back into the 46, which is what ultimately turns Machad around, and then everybody scatters to miss it. Wesley Shaw is still trying to get by it on the outside and just runs right into the 4 of Andrew Hale. And then he takes a little bump here into the outside safer barrier. look at it here from a couple different angles before we go back live and set up for what's going to be our first restart attempt of the night. And you see the 46 loose. Wingman Jr. does sneak around with very minimal damage. Again, I think either the 4 or the 52 get the worst of this. Before everybody's able to finally get it back going in the right direction here. Give you one more angle from our TV static view. There's the first hit. There's the second. So with that, we turn our attention now back live on the racetrack. James Harris still is your race leader. Lights off on the pace car. So we're getting ready to go back green this time. By the way, I'll talk more about this tonight, but basically the way the new rule works to help try to clean things up, first cause of caution tonight, EOL. Your second cause of caution is a black flag. Third cause of caution, you will be DQ'd. And again, there is a live race control to help enforce that. So keep that in mind. Again, not sure if anybody was put at fault for that wreck or not, but hoping to see it stay clean the rest of the way. Here we go. 6 laps in the books. Let's try this one more time. Green flag back in the air. 7 laps complete at Martinsville, and it's a great jump. For James Harris in the 55, he's going to quickly clear the 7 of Meeks by the time they exit turn 2. And oh man, side by side further back. This time, these guys weren't able to get organized quite as quickly as they were on that last restart. And now they're going to single file out here off of turn 4. I'll tell you what, Wesley Shaw, obviously not put at fault for that last wreck. He's quickly picked up some positions now. We saw that black and red 52 now already up inside the top 5. That puts him up 3 positions from where he started this race at tonight. Still only 2x2 cars that you can find further back in the field is Andrew Hale racing alongside the Chili's machine. That's the 51 of Charles Whitehead. So it looks like they'll sort it out here. And for James Harris, we can talk all we want about the absolute dominance so far this season from him, and it really has been a storybook. It was a storybook last season. Maybe I should start with that. But this season, obviously, you come in, you know you've got high expectations. You're looking to pretty much have as good a run as you could possibly imagine, and so far it's been that way. For James Harris, 2 wins on the season. The only other 2 drivers with a win so far this season, Bryce Rayner and John Thacker. Big win for John Thacker. Can't forget about, excuse me, that's actually Brad Thacker. For some reason, when I said John, I was thinking it was John Legger, and I was getting ready to say I didn't remember him winning yet this season, but certainly would have helped his standings. But no, Brad Thacker in the 56, one of the other 2 drivers that have won a race this season. 56, and driver out of the great state of Texas with a good run so far tonight. Qualified on the podium, and he has ran there ever since. With just 11 laps in the books, we'll have to talk about green flag pit stops here in just a moment. But the other thing to keep in mind for some of these guys, tire wear. We have yet to see any sort of a long run this season, so nobody's really gotten a good feel for how these things wear off as we get into the long run and how that changes the handling of the car. It is fixed setup, so everybody's working with the same, but you got to remember, the more you wear your tires out, the different handling you're going to have in the long run as this race goes on. And of course, Bryce Rayner, the other driver that's got to win the season, not in the field tonight. That's big news for some of the guys that are top 3 in points, because whenever you miss a race, obviously that's usually at least a 10-plus point cushion that you're going to lose over the guys you're battling with. And Rayner was tied with James Harris coming into this week. Not going to be the case, though, anymore after that. So we'll have to see if potentially Thacker can take advantage. Jason Ethery up there in points as well. The 34's got a good run going so far here tonight. One thing I'm noticing, though, is the gaps have been pretty even here. James Harris has just under half a second over the 7 of Meeks, and the top 4 are trying to scoot away here from the rest of the field. Looking a little bit further back, Sheldon Pearson here trying to fend off series sponsor Kevin Kirchar. For Kirchar here, we'll hop on board here for a lap. The number 91. This kind of gives you an idea of how it is to drive around Martinsville. Again, there's not really much, if any, banking, maybe a degree or 2 here through the corners, and different guys want different approaches. Some people like to wrap the bottom. You'll see others kind of try to do a diamond where you get down early in the corner, arc it up, and then try to arc it back down on exit. But it flattens out so quick here as soon as you get off of the corner. It's just so enticing sometimes. You want to slam down the throttle as you're about halfway through the corner, but you got to make sure that you got the car pointed, because very easy to spin these late model cars. We've seen that multiple times this season, but so far here tonight, of all the short tracks we've been to, these guys settling into a pretty nice rhythm here. We had that one early caution, but we've ran about 10 laps since without any sort of hiccups. That is now inching us closer to the 20-lap completion mark of this race. By the way, the 48 of George Young tracking down the 2 that we just talked about, and Kevin Kirchar and Sheldon Pearson. And then here's a battle between John Legger and the 46 of Jason Machad. Machad involved in that First incident of the night, so he's trying to claw his way back up towards the top 5. He started 4th here tonight. See Legger in the Monster Energy colors right there. He'll have to lose that spot. Andrew Hale still chasing. Looks like Wesley Shaw has started to fall back into the wrong direction here. As the 51 of Charles Whitehead currently 14th. Josh Graff currently the last car on track, sitting in that 15th spot, and he is 10 seconds back from the leaders. And the reason that's significant, lap traffic, if this thing goes green, I'm telling you folks, it's going to become an issue here at some point. I think they've still probably got a good 30-ish laps minimum before we would even have to talk about it, but just like Bristol, lap traffic can really help to decide who wins this race if we see long runs, especially once we get through the pit sequences. But how about Tyler Meeks now? Trying to close the gap up here a little bit. The 55 of James Harris. For Tyler Meeks, not quite the best run so far this season. A lot of it's, though, been him getting caught up in other people's mistakes. He's up now inside the top 10 in points, but obviously still a lot of clawing to do if he wants to get up there towards the top 3. And don't forget, it's season accumulation points. So this isn't a, you make the playoffs and then you go from there. This is a, you have to be consistent each and every race, because the amount of points you have at the end of the season is going to determine where you finish in the championship standings. Well, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. Again, you are watching the Grindstone Developments Late Model Stock Tour from Martinsville Speedway, one of the crown jewel tracks that we are going to this season. Everybody wants a grandfather clock, a virtual one at that, I might add. But Lorraine and Clapped 125 in the chat tonight. Lorraine says, let's go, John Legger. Clapped says, this series is more realistic than real-life NASCAR. It's even better. You got that right. Nonetheless, though, appreciate everybody for tuning in here tonight. And so far, so good. We had that one early caution, if you missed it, within the first 3 laps. But once we went back green on lap 7, we have been clean since that point. And James Harris, this is another thing I'll add, made a point too in the Discord this week. As we zoom in on him here, he's got a beautiful looking paint scheme, a little bit of a different look here this week. He's got the Texar sponsorship on board. That is the driver, of course, out of Texarkana, Texas. But I was getting ready to say, James Harris, of course, series admin/owner, talking about the fact that he said, listen, guys, nobody out here is going to be getting recruited to Hendrick Motorsports, right? We're all out here to have fun. Everybody just settle down. We can race hard, but you got to keep it clean, especially when we've got 125 laps per race. So I think everybody taking that advice, and it does seem like there's been a lot more give so far here tonight. Again, everybody kind of settled into a rhythm pretty quickly on the restart. There wasn't a ton of side-by-side, at least not for a sustained amount of laps. Now, Chris Logan back here in the 70, saw him barely brush the wall right there off of turn 2. Another typical thing you'll see happen here at Martinsville, but no harm, no foul. That car is still looking pretty clean, and Logan's already picked up a spot from where he started this race at. I'm watching to see here. It looked like he may have been one of the first drivers I noticed, at least on that last lap, that maybe the handling was starting to shift just ever so slightly. We'll hop back on board here, show you the weather and telemetry here for Logan. And again, track temp has actually gone up about 3 or 4 degrees, but it's still plenty cool. Anything under the 100-degree mark is usually not a big issue. Under 90, to me, is usually considered on the cooler side of things. And for Chris Logan, you see on the straightaways, these guys get right up to about that 110 range, and then down through the corner, still up over 50 miles an hour. And again, the late model stocks tend to make a little bit more grip than obviously the NASCARs, as they are much lighter. I believe. I should say, don't quote me on that. I'm not a late model expert, but I do believe from what I've seen. Do know for sure that these cars do make a lot better downforce to horsepower ratio, so they're, in a way, I don't want to say easy to drive by any means, but they're a lot easier to drive on short tracks, because they're meant for short tracks, than say the trucks or Xfinity or even Cup cars, which are more built for the faster mile-and-a-half tracks. But I'm looking at Chris Logan here, who's been kind of just hounded on the back door here of Wesley Shaw over the last couple of laps. No progress. That's been the case for a lot of the guys here tonight, and it kind of begs the question, if we get to the end of this race, maybe even sooner than that, if you're close to a guy but you can't pass him, what are you willing to do to try to get around him? Do you try to loosen him up a little bit? Talk about maybe giving a little bit of a bump and run. As you see the field here catching up quickly now to the 30 of Josh Graff. He'll be the first car to go a lap down here tonight once the field catches him. So for Josh here, going to make a decision, obviously hoping for a caution right now so that doesn't happen. You don't risk losing that lap, but if not, how hard do you want to race the leaders? We talk about the lap cars, obviously, with the decision. You're losing your first lap here. Obviously, you don't want to go a lap down. Does that change your mindset here to be a little bit more aggressive with the leaders, or do you just kind of let them by and say, maybe it's just not my day. See what Josh decides to do here as Harris quickly closes up. And this is also an opportunity here for Tyler Meeks. Depending on how this plays out, well, it looks like Harris is actually going to get around pretty smoothly. So I'll retract that statement for now, but definitely if you're Tyler Meeks, you're going to be looking for some of those lap cars as a potential opportunity to try to set a pick, anything. To try to maybe make a move here on James Harris. Again, the top 4, really I'd say top 3 at this point. Looks like Nethery has actually finally started to fall off of these guys. Or he hung with them pretty long, but the top 3, all within a second of each other. The top 2 within half a second. They're pretty even still. Clean air, not a huge factor at all when you come to short tracks in these cars, but certainly still want to be the leader. And James Harris has been able to maintain the lead all night, but Tyler Meeks, again, has been hanging right there within the half a second range just about all night as well. And you can see that now Meeks is trying to open up the entry here just a little bit to see if it can help get him a bigger run on the exit of the corner. James Harris still very comfortable just right at the bottom, trying to conserve those 4 Goodyear tires. Make him last as long as he's going to need. And, you know, that caution, nobody really pit for tires. You wouldn't expect him to. It was only 7-lap run. Excuse me, only 3-lap run. But in terms of fuel mileage, I think these guys could probably make it, I'd guess, somewhere to at least the halfway point in this race, right around 60 or so. I don't see it being a 2-stop, even if we stay green. I think it'll still only be 1 required pit stop for service, 4 tires and fuel. But obviously, if we get a caution at any point, that could throw a wrench in the strategy. Is further back there. Kevin Kirchar there, maybe with a little wiggle right there coming off at turn number 2. Looks like he was able to straighten it out. There's our turn 3 cam and our turn 2 cam. You see the field now separated enough where just about everywhere you look on the track, there's cars running right now. The leader's still with a little bit of gap between some of the lap cars, but as you go from about, I'd say 3rd on back, maybe 4th, that's where it's just everybody kind of on an island by themselves trying to chase down the cars in front. James Harris crosses the line. That now puts us at 40 laps complete. And it'd be interesting to see if it does also stay green. I mentioned what the pit strategy could be. Again, somewhere right around the halfway point. But if you're, Tyler Meeks, Brad Thacker, you try to play some strategy here on the 55 of Harris, whether that be, say, going in maybe a little early. Whoa, Tyler Meeks. Big catch right there off of turn 4. That's going to cost him some time. Did you see that? If not, watch it again here. Meeks talked about really digging and just gets the throttle down way too early here. And yeah, that wall comes up quick. And for Meeks right there, did a really good job not making that worse than it is. You hit the wall like that pretty hard, you can break a toe link, but or maybe I should say the suspension in general, but man, that was close. Good save right there by Tyler Meeks to keep himself clean and green. Going up a spot here, back to the man who currently sits out in front. Best view in the house. It's been that way multiple times this season for James Harris. Talked about that he missed the 2nd race of the season, so I mean, I know he's got 2 wins, but you still got to factor that in and say the fact that he is still up here doing as good as he is in points makes it even more impressive. Speaking of James Harris, he is one of the drivers that's carrying an onboard view for us here tonight, so there's a look inside the cockpit for James Harris. And I'll tell you what, I think maybe in iRacing, we still got a ways to go before we're going to see this, but I don't think some people realize, I like to make mention of this every once in a while, I know it's sim, but some of the setups that these guys have rigged together, you would think you're basically in a real-life racing cockpit, and Harris is pretty much kind of one of those. He's got the track racer racing seat. I think he's got potentially a triple monitor setup. Looks like he's got a whole dash set up. I mean, he's got the setup that makes it feel real, and I think for a lot of guys, that obviously helps you perform. The closer you feel to real life on the track, the more you can try to get out of the car, and for Harris, it is working here tonight. Gap now up over half a second ever since Meeks made that mistake. Brad Thacker has closed in now on the back of Tyler Meeks. He's looking to try to take advantage. Side of the nose view, and you notice it's a Chevy leading the way, but got a Ford in second. And Brad Thacker, a Dodge, that currently sits in that 3rd spot. Beautiful looking paint scheme, though, for a lot of these guys. I'll tell you what, Brad Thacker wanted some love tonight, so here you go, Brad. The 56, the bright yellow. I said Sunoco, but he's got the field filler sponsor on board, and I'll tell you what, I like that Brad's got the Dodge-sponsored car. Certainly looks pretty cool, similar to what you would see on a Dodge Charger or a Hellcat. And again, Thacker, I think, was maybe to some guys a little bit of a surprise this season. Not because he's not one of the veterans and he's been doing this a long time, but because it's just not gone the way that he's expected the last couple of seasons when we've been in the trucks. But man, as soon as we got in the late models, Thacker was geared up and ready to go. And again, he has been really, really solid all season so far. Top 3 in points, top 3 so far tonight. And see if he can continue that streak as we slowly approach now lap 50 in this one. Courtney Harris rooting on her husband. James Harris says, let's go, Harris, number 55. James so far so good here tonight. Continues to lead the way. Let's go back towards the back half of the field here. Josh Graff, again, we talked about him being a lap down. Whitehead going to be the next car up to go a lap down, along with Wesley Shaw. Those two going at it. You see Wesley still got a little bit of front end damage. And I believe that's still the same damage that he got from that first caution when he ran into the back of Andrew Hale. Chris Logan in 70 up in the 12th spot. That now moves him up to 2 positions ahead of where he started this race from. Chris Logan kind of on an island by himself. Next guy is way up there. That's William Mann Jr. in the 29 trying to chase after Hale. And they're all chasing after John Legger, who's getting ready to battle here potentially with Jason Machad. George Young up there as well. You've got Sheldon Pearson, your top 4. And how about Kevin Kirchar? He started to find some grip out of this thing. He has now made his way up inside the top 4. The gap between him and the leader now down to about 4.5 seconds. Back towards the front. Looking at the gap. Meeks has closed it back up here. Not sure if Brad Thacker putting all that pressure on his back bumper started to get him a little bit more antsy, or maybe he just started to find the rhythm once again, but you can see these guys are definitely wrapping the bottom. I'll tell you what, it looked like that time right there that Meeks was able to get, and I mean just an inch or 2 lower through the center of the corner than James Harris was, but then into 1 here, see Meeks a little bit higher entry, trying to arc it down. That's the only real way you're going to get any momentum. And remember, the move here is going to be the inside, especially on worn out tires. There's no question. You're not going to the outside to pass the guy. You're going to the inside. And so for Tyler Meeks, if he gets there, is it a dive bomb or does he try to set him up to get there on exit of the corner? I think that'd be the question. Meeks again with that same line. It's been kind of on and off as, oh, watch out here. This could get a little dicey. James Harris, it's a couple lap cars here getting pretty racy out in front of him. Show you that from the cockpit view. That was Charles Whitehead and Wesley Shaw that were 2x2 for just a moment. Looks like they're back to single file here. I think Whitehead is going to let Harris go. Looks like he'll do just that. I'm going to assume Wesley Shaw is going to likely do the same. Again, I don't believe these guys have to move out of the way. It's kind of how courteous do you want to be or not. So far, everybody has been very courteous so far here tonight. Here's the 52, Wesley Shaw. Let's see what he does here. I believe that is a teammate, too, and the leader of Harris. And yep, sure enough, Wesley going to stay high. So there won't be an issue there. For anybody else wondering here tonight, if there's any chance that we'll see the famous, I think they called it the Hail Melon, the Ross Chastain move on the last lap at Martinsville, where he just put the throttle down, didn't lift, and rode the wall around 3 and 4. Made up a ton of position. The answer is no. iRacing took care of that immediately after that whole ordeal happened to make sure that people would not be successful in trying to ride the wall. And granted, I don't know if it would necessarily be that much faster in these cars, because again, these actually make pretty good speed around the bottom. Oh man, Meeks maybe trying to give a little bit of the chrome horn right there to James Harris. He's really close back up now within half a car length. And if you're Harris here, I think now we're at the point in the run where you're really going to have to defend for this lead, because you know that there's a pit stop, maybe not necessarily quite on the horizon just yet, but certainly getting closer. And you would like to have this lead when it's time for those pit stops. So the top 3 still within a second. They have been that way all night. The great racing continues up front. The rest of the field continuing to click off laps here at Martinsville as we are getting close now to the halfway point in the Martinsville 125. You know, I was just thinking here, the other thing to potentially mention for these guys is that I said earlier they don't know how the handling is going to change as the run goes on. But I think for Tyler Meeks here, as he keeps running that line, it's got to wear out something, whether it's the rear or front tires a little bit more. Because again, you're diving it in a little bit harder so that you can get that arc more in the middle of the corner. Now we started to fade here just a little bit again, back to about half a second as they cross the line that time. So Thacker will try to apply the pressure once again. Jason Nethery, 5th, all the way back to right about 11th. Where we see William Mann Jr., all within about a straightaway of each other right there. Looks like Josh Graff here maybe getting ready to lose his 2nd lap of the night. We are now down, by the way, to 12 cars on the lead lap. Which brings me to something else that you got to think about here if you're one of the guys racing side, and that's, you know, when you make this pit stop, if you decide to go earlier, like you decide, let's say, not to wait until as long as you can run on fuel. There's always that risk of if we get a caution, not only here, but really any race this season, because they're all short tracks. So whenever you make that pit stop, you're going to be guaranteed to lose a lap if you take 4 tires. And obviously, if you lose a lap, you get a caution, you might find yourself trapped a lap down. Now, one of the things I heard James Harris talking about at the start of the season that's going to be interesting is he said, you know, with the way these cars run here and the tracks being so short, a lot of times you don't have time to take 4 tires. Now, it all depends on obviously how much you wear your stuff out and how much of an advantage you feel like those new tires would be. But the point I think James Harris is trying to make is if we get a green flag pit stop after a long run, keep an eye out to see what everybody decides to do. No tires, 2 tires, 4 tires? That'll be a big question that you got to decide how you want to potentially go about it. Jason Ethery and the 316 of Pearson here working around Charles Whitehead. Again, that is not for position, though. John Legger's been kind of knocking on the back door of George Young here now for a couple of laps. You can tell he really wants by here. George Young, though, running the bright yellow neon Samuel Adams car. He's got the NPR mid-pack racing sponsor on board. That's about where he is right now, 2 mid-pack. We've got about a 15-car field tonight. George Young is 7th. But a good run at that here as he continues to chase after Sheldon Pearson. Wesley Shaw there back into the outside wall. Shaw is currently a lap down. So Harris right back into the rhythm here with 67 laps complete. And now that we're just over the halfway point, you're noticing that a lot of guys here are starting to separate even more as Harris looks for maybe around a second gap this time as they clear off turn 4. Whoa. Big moment right there. Watch out. Boy, Brad Thacker got aggressive with Tyler Meeks. He wanted that spot, and he got it. But the trade-off is the time they lose here. I think they actually got into each other. Going into the corner here, I think Thacker was like, listen, man, I feel like you're holding me up. I'm ready for it. So he dives to the inside. A little bit of contact there to Meeks, and then shoots around. Gets into him again. Definitely used up Meeks right there. I don't think Tyler's going to be too pleased about that. But Thacker does get the position in the process. So now he'll set his sights to see if he can try to track down your leader, James Harris. And also, at the same time, we'll have to see here if Tyler Meeks can find any way to recover and try to chase that 56 back down. Martinsville has not always had lights. In fact, it's only been in the last decade, even less than then, maybe the last, 5, 6, 7 years, the track actually got lights to where they could race at night. Anytime you go racing under the lights, especially when it's short track racing, it always just seems to make it that much better. So far tonight, it has been a fantastic one. By the way, Chris Logan now almost 20 seconds back. He'll be next up on the list to lose a lap here to James Harris, who is probably about 5-10 car lengths off now the back bumper of the 70. 71 of 125 laps complete, and with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break tonight. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. James Harris tried to hold everybody off here as we are past the halfway point at Martinsville.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
by 3.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it at Talladega.
Welcome back to the Grindstone Developments Late Model Stock Tour. There's your race leader, James Harris, bringing it down the pits because we got a caution just before we were getting ready to come back to break. So Harris, again, your race leader here, coming down for service. This is going to be everybody's only pit stop of the night. Almost made it to green flag pit stops, but couldn't quite get there. Now, the only thing I saw data-wise, the potential cause of the crash here, was associated with Josh Graff. I'm not sure if something happened here to the 36 or what the deal was. Let's see. Excuse me, the 30. Looks like he blinks out right there. And we don't see him. We see him again. And then as they go to the next corner, he's on the wall. Oh, and he's going to just bring it to a halt on the racetrack. Oh. And I'm really not sure what the issue was. Obviously, I assume there was something going on here, whether it was technical or what, but, you know, if whatever the issue was, he was trying to just get out of the way. You can't stop on the track. This is what can happen with that, but again, I think there may have been some other underlying technical issue. Either way, that's a really tough break for Josh Graff and James Harris, along with the rest of the leaders who had probably started to plan on, hey, this thing actually looks like it might go green here. Then all of a sudden you get a caution, and it's going to be a massive curveball for a lot of guys in a lot of different ways here, but this should bring back maybe a car or two to the lead lap. And it looks like it might get Wesley Shaw one of his 3 laps down back. It's going to set us up for a restart here with probably 83, 84 laps complete, depending on if we get the lights off this time or not. So we're going to be closing in on really only about 40 laps to go, which is, again, not that long here. And you look at how quickly lap times click off. Now, what I am very curious about here, just to see how much of the advantage new tires are going to have, is look at some of these lap times they were running before the caution came out. 20.3 and 21.3. I would say the 20.3 maybe the more accurate one. So keep that in mind here. We'll see the advantage that these guys run on new tires. I would expect that those lap times could drop into the teens, but we're getting ready to find out. Field trying to organize there further towards the back, but up front, Harris and Thacker, the 250 number cars. And then you've got Nethery and Meeks in row 2, Machad and Kevin Kirchar, row 3. Here we go. Green flag back in the air. 83 laps complete. Harris got a phenomenal jump, was able to jump up and get that arc down into the first corner. Meanwhile, Thacker got stuck next to Jason Nethery coming off of turn 2. That's going to hurt the momentum for both of those guys. And man, for Thacker here, it's just such a helpless feeling. The outside, it just doesn't work. I think Thacker already kind of was better in the long run than the short run anyway, but boy, if he could have just been on the inside, it would have helped his case. Just losing positions here as the freight train goes by. Tyler Meek's going to try to grab this spot here as they work through 3 and 4. And in Thacker's defense, if he's able to squeeze those guys down low enough, he gets some momentum here on the straightaway. So he might have a chance, but it's just every lap he's stuck up there, he's wearing his tires out so much more just to basically hold even with the guys on the bottom. And they're also starting to watch those two front runners trying to pull away here a little bit. James Harris, Jason Nethery. And it looks like Meeks is finally going to get clear. Thacker will have to settle in behind him in that 4th spot. But I don't think Thacker's going to give it up there. Watch for him to try to maybe dive back to the inside here within a lap or two. See if he can get that position back here. 7 to Meeks. The rest of the field, though, single file. Similar to what we saw for both other restarts tonight. Really, the only other restart, I should say, that we had here tonight, plus the initial start, was everybody single filed out really quickly, well within the first 5 laps of that start. And so remember, no more green flag pit stops expected the rest of this race. The only chance of going into the pits would be, of course, if we get a caution and you decide you want another set of tires, which I believe everybody should have one left, but otherwise, yeah, you were staying out the rest of the way, and I don't know if you just caught that there towards the back, but John Legger got into the outside fence. Trying to gauge here. Yeah, the 19 does have a little bit of damage, too, from it. Let's go back and look at it here. Show you how this started. I think Legger, he's just on the outside, trying to carry a lot of speed through the middle, and that just sets him up way too high on exit, and said it earlier that outside wall comes up in a hurry. Not able to avoid it there, but everybody else was able to avoid him in that instance. So we do keep it clean and green for now. Crossing the line this time, makes it 90 of 125 laps complete, just 35 laps to go. And with that, let's head over real quick and take a look at what the schedule looks like for the rest of the season from here. Again, we are at Martinsville tonight, so we're just about at that halfway point in the season. Next week, we go to Lucas Oil, and that will officially be the halfway point. I believe that's Indianapolis Raceway Park, the IRP initials. But the week after that, we go to Stafford Motor Speedway, followed by South Boston, which is another pretty big one. Slinger Speedway, and then it's 3 absolute crown jewels to end the season. You've got Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway. Then it's off to Bristol, which I think a lot of these guys, that's kind of the big one you got circled. If we had a Daytona 500 for the late model series, I almost got to think Bristol would be it. The other argument for that could be Five Flags, which is going to be where the championship race is hosted at this season. That'll be on December 9th, so season will wrap up before Christmas and the rest of the holidays around that time. That's a look at the schedule, so you know what to expect as we go back live here. Just a moment, getting reports here that William Mann Jr. may have had an issue. I was getting ready to show you James Harris here. We'll hold on that here for just a moment. Got some data that he may have either went off track or had something wrong here. Let's see. Let's get loose, gets high. Oh man, the 29 does. Got up into the outside wall, and then Wesley Shaw pushes him like a snow shovel, and that turns the 29 right around. Boy, for William Mann Jr. right there, I'm shocked that didn't bring out the caution, especially since we've only had a few tonight. I mean, there's not really a part of the racetrack here that isn't considered on the racing surface. That's what, again, surprises me about it. And you see as he gets to the wall here, Wesley Shaw really just doesn't have anywhere to go, runs right into the back of him, and 52's been caught up in a couple incidents here tonight. None of his causing, but certainly ones he couldn't necessarily run from. Let's get one more angle of this here from Wesley Shaw's point of view, and watch what he sees as this plays out. Legger, by the way, you saw the damage right there, but he doesn't really see. Oh, that was William Mann Jr. Just trying to go to Wesley Shaw's POV here. Here we go. Well, I'll tell you what, he never really lifted until he already got up under him, so I'm not sure if for Shaw right there, he just was more focused on like the line and didn't see him, or what the case was, but certainly made the situation go from bad to worse for William Mann Jr. from hitting the wall to getting spun all the way around. As we go back up front now, I think James Harris realized that, you know, hey, we don't have to pit anymore. It's time to go. And we're coming up on 25 laps to go, and unlike that last run where we saw the top 3 within a second of each other for, you know, pretty much the entirety of that 50, 60 laps that we were getting close to, Jason Nethery in second right now is over 1.3 seconds back of the race leader, James Harris. So Harris is definitely trying to put it on everybody right now and see if he can pull away and wrap this thing up. Further back, oh man, Brad Thacker, Tyler Meeks still going at it. Those two maybe with a little friendly rivalry going here tonight. Thacker, I think, has probably been a little bit better overall, but Meeks has still been able to strike back in some of the moments. Thacker's also been door banging Meeks a couple of times, and looks like he's going to be a little bit more clean with him this time around. It's hard. It's really, really tough here because, you know, it looks like he's going to get clear there, which is obviously helpful for him, but you get in these situations where, you know how quickly you need to get single file out to go chase down the next guy. And so as you start battling with somebody for more than a couple laps, it gets to a point where you just start to get frustrated. You think, you know, listen, I feel like I'm faster than you and you're not cutting me any sort of breaks here. Sometimes that's where we can see guys start to get a little bit more forceful with the attempt at a pass, trying to shove another guy up the racetrack. Speaking of pass, Andrew Hale moves his way right past Jason Machado in the 46. And so the Ford car now back up inside the top 5. That puts Hale up a position from where he started this race at. And so as we cross the line next time, it'll be just 23 laps to go here from Martinsville. Last thing we'll talk about before we keep all the action focused on track the rest of the way. I know I mentioned some of the point standings earlier, but we'll name off your top 10 as they run in points right now. James Harris, Bryce Rayner 1-2 in the points, but they're basically tied because coming into this race, they both had 126 points. Now, obviously, Harris going to get a big advantage over Rayner because Rayner was not here tonight. Brad Thacker currently sitting third in points. Jason Nethery tied with Thacker for that third spot. And so whichever one of them gets the better finish tonight will move to third, other will go to fourth. Aaron Longworth currently fifth in points. Longworth also not in the race here tonight. Matt Walters currently sitting sixth in points. Chris Logan tied with Rodney Roberts for seventh. William Mann Jr. ninth in points. And then it's Tyler Meeks who currently rounds out that final 10th position in the point standings. Looked like there was one that was almost getting into the outside wall coming off at turn number 4. Might have been Charles Whitehead here. Seen way up the racetrack. Seems to be okay now. As I go back here and I look at that battle for the third spot, I mean, this is exactly what I talked about. I thought Thacker was a little better, but then here comes Meeks all of a sudden out of nowhere. It's like he keeps finding these little spurts of speed to put himself right back into the rhythm. And so as these two continue to battle it out, just 20 laps to go here at Martinsville. And with that, how about a little crank it up here from the paperclip? Trouble. Caution is out. And it is Meeks and Brad Thacker, the two who had been going at it most of the night, get tangled up with each other. And we were coming to what would be 16 laps to go next time around. You wanted late race drama, you've got it. The race itself has been a lot cleaner tonight, but we still find a way to make it exciting at the end. And that's exactly what it's getting ready to be here. Let's go back and look at it here. These two have been racing each other really hard, so close for so long. What gives? As they get into the corner here. Oh, man. Meeks just rams right into the back of him, and it wasn't intentional, I don't think. I just think the checkup to the center of the corner for Thacker was so much more than Meeks was expecting, unless Meeks just gets in here way too deep. Let's see. Was Meeks sideways there? Boy, that's tough to tell. Let's hop on the onboard views here for a couple of these guys and see what it sounds and looks like. Here's Brad Thacker first. As he gets into the corner here. Looks like he's on a pretty normal line, at least from what it looks like. Obviously, always harder to tell when you watch it on TV, but it looked to me like, you know, I don't really think that for Brad Thacker right there that he could have ran that corner much more aggressive than what he did. Now let's watch here from the view of Tyler Meeks. Take a listen. That's weird. Yeah, I can't tell on that one because at the same time, from that point of view, it also looks to me like Meeks gets into the corner really well. I'm not sure if Thacker was checking up maybe a little more for a run up front or if it was really just that big of a misjudgment and the speed difference there between the 56 and the 7 for Meeks. Either way, I don't see any intention or intentional harm in that one, but certainly is just a case of Meeks punting him around right there. To the center of the corner, and then Thacker, after getting turned around here, he's going to let it roll for a moment. And then, any more contact? Nope. Looks like he does a little J-turn here. He'll start finish line and gets it back going in the right direction. So we'll try this again here. One more look here from our TV static view before we go back up front. So there you go. So we line things now back up front. Lights are off on the pace car. That means we're going green this time. That means it's going to be a 12-lap to go shootout here from Martinsville. Up front, you've got the 55 of Harris on the inside, the 34 of Jason Nethery on the outside. Row 2 now, a couple of different names. Andrew Hale, Jason Machad. And you've got Kevin Kirchar, George Young, row 3, Brad Thacker all the way back in row 4. And it looks like Tyler Meeks may have been assigned the EOL. I believe so. Let's try this again, though. Here we go. Could be the final restart, so it's going to be a crucial one. Green flag back in the air. 12 laps to go at Martinsville, and it's another great restart for Harris. This time, though, Machad able to match him a little bit closer by the time they got down to turn 1. You know, out backfield's going to be battling a lot harder now. A lot of these guys know this. They got to get track position now. We're running out of laps here in a hurry. James Harris, Jason Machad, Andrew Hale all quick to settle into the top 3. Brad Thacker looking to the inside of Kevin Kirchar. Couldn't make it happen that time around. You see the 52 of Wesley Shaw back there battling with George Young as well. 7 of Tyler Meeks now. Looks like he's going to go to the inside of Sheldon Pearson. Well, a couple of those guys really stalled out going through the middle of the corner. A lot of momentum lost. Meanwhile, back up front, James Harris still leads the way here. He's led every single lap of this race so far tonight. Let's look and see if he can lead. Will it be just 9 more to make it a complete sweep here at Martinsville? Remember, though, and I know this is still a ways out, got to make it to the white flag for this race to be official. By the way, we talked about lap times earlier. It looks like they're in the 20 flats to 21s right now. Which tells me there may not have been all that much fall off with the newer tires. Or rather, older tires, I should say. For Harris here, Jason Nethery has got to search around, I should say. I mean, for Harris, you're just doing what you've been doing all night. But for Jason Nethery here, it's time to find something if you want to go up there and have a shot at your leader. I mean, either way, again, it's going to be a great run here for Nethery. Is almost sounded like he might have hit a downshift there. He is. It's interesting enough there. Jason Nethery actually shifting. I was trying to hear if James Harris is shifting here. Let's take a listen. Nope, doesn't sound like it. And yeah, it's a little surprising to me that Nethery is shifting. Meanwhile, Andrew Hale currently sits in 3rd. If they've got enough time, I just don't know. Doesn't look like Harris is really folding at all here. Brad Thacker made his way back up in the top 5, but again, without a caution. I think that's pretty close to about as far as he's going to be able to go here. Just 5 laps to go. 4 to make it official here for James Harris. Looking for his 3rd win of the season here tonight. First at what I'd call one of the crown jewels, at least in a short track series like this. 34 Nethery, though, still right around that half a second mark. You can't count him out completely just yet. And I think also if you're Jason Nethery here, I talked about searching around, but if you can just get close enough, you have that option. If you decide you want to maybe try to loosen him up, it's there, but if you're nowhere close, you obviously don't even have that option to necessarily try to think about. I don't think Andrew Hale is going to be closing up on Nethery, and it looks like Jason Machad still potentially thinking about battling here with the 4 of Hale before this thing's all said and done. Going back now into turn number 3 as they come around this time for James Harris. Off of turn 4, 2 laps to go. He needs 1 more to make this race official. Wants to see the white flag. He's got under a half a mile left to see it. Nethery now has fallen back to about 7/10 of a second. Tough race not back here. Watch out. Going into turn 3. Last chance for this to get a little dicey here. Kirchar into the 56 of Thacker. Oh, man, I think they're going to hold it together, though. Looks like they do. White flag out. 1 lap to go for James Harris. 55 has had another stellar night. It's been a stellar season so far, and that trend going to continue. Harris has won 2 so far on the season. He's going to make it win number 3 here tonight. First crown jewel win of the season. James Harris gets it done at Martinsville. Jason Nethery takes home 2nd. Andrew Hale 3rd, and the rest of the cavalry inside the top 5 includes Machad and Brad Thacker. And I'll tell you what, for Harris, I know the reaction's not there, but when you start winning this much, it's not that you don't love them, and it's not that it's not exciting. But you start to almost get a little bit used to it to a degree. Harris going to bring it around here. Meeks will give him a little bump. Continue on his way. James Harris, I've said this for a few guys. The one thing everybody I think still trying to master this season is the burnout. Tough to do in this car. And a lot of these tracks don't have a lot of room to necessarily throw the car around either. He's going to see if he can get it figured out right here. Or maybe he's just going to stick with the reverse victory lap. I think they call it the Polish victory lap. Looks like that is indeed what James Harris is going to do. So while he continues to celebrate, we'll hear from him here in just a moment. Let's take a look at your finishing results here tonight. James Harris again gets his third win of the season here tonight at Martinsville. Jason Nethery, another great run for him. He's been knocking on the door a couple times so far this season. Takes home second here tonight. Andrew Hill with a good third place finish tonight. Jason Machad taking home fourth, and it's Brad Thacker rounding out the top five. William Mann Jr. takes home sixth. John Legger, good recovery for him, finishing seventh here tonight with George Young eighth. Sheldon Pearson ninth, and Tyler Meeks after that late race tangle finishes in 10th. Chris Logan back in 11th with Kevin Kirchart 12th. Wesley Shaw takes home 13th. Charles Whitehead 14th. Josh Graff finishes in 15th. And Eli Childs, of course, not actually in the race tonight. He was the race control. All right, so with that, we are going to go grab your top three for interviews, and we'll go ahead and actually kick things off first here tonight since we've already got him reared and ready to go, and that is none other than the 55 of James Harris. Hey, James, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy? And I realize that you guys cannot hear him yet, so give me just a moment to fix that. I can hear him, but don't have this set up right, so give me just a moment. All right, let's try that again. James, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
I do. Do y'all have my copy?
There we go. All right, we got him now on audio for the people at home. And, well, James, this is win number 3 on the season, but it's a bigger one tonight because it comes at really what I'd call one of the crown jewels of short tracks. Martinsville, obviously, a very popular, well-known short track. And, boy, it was another dominant performance here tonight. What was the difference?
Man, I don't know what it is. I love this this track. You know, I've been doing pretty good with this car this season now that I'm getting used to it. But this car and this track combo, man, there's something about it. It's just suits my driving style. I'm a rhythm driver, and you know, thankfully we had a lot of green flag laps tonight, so I was able to get in a good rhythm and lead. I think every lap tonight.
Yeah, every lap. That's obviously impressive enough to do in of itself, but. Third one on the season. You came in tonight tied in points with Bryce Rayner. He doesn't make the race. So you get a little bit of a cushion here tonight. Do you feel like this maybe gives you a little bit more of a more breathing room as we're getting closer to the halfway point in the season?
I was looking forward to racing against him here tonight because he loves this track and he's good here. But it's going to even out because here in a few weeks, I'm going to miss the race because I'm going to be on another vacation. So the points will probably even out here in just a few weeks. So I got to get all I can get right now.
Yeah, that's certainly working out that way. But tell you what, another dominant performance tonight. So before we let you head out to go celebrate, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'm going to thank my wife, Courtney. We actually had her bank, her employer, Texas Federal Credit Union on a car tonight. I'm glad we could bring the win to them. Kevin Kirster of Blackstone Management, Champion Power Equipment. And I believe that's it for tonight.
James, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the race win number 3 on the season. And we're not even halfway. We'll see you next week.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right, there you go. James Harris, your race winner here tonight. We'll go ahead and let him celebrate that. Now we'll move us to your second place finisher, the man who takes runner-up tonight, and that is none other than the 34 of Jason Nethery. Hey, Jason, this is all stuff in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you, Austin. How you doing?
Good. Well, man, it's been a good season for you so far. We talked about points at one point in this race and said you were kind of hanging around up there inside the top 5, trying to close in on some of the top 3. Well, you get a second-place finish here tonight, and I think that's got to help. But let me start first with, you were kind of hanging around the top 5 early, but then you started to struggle a little bit there as we got the long run. But late in the race, you made a secondary charge. Where did that speed come from?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I noticed those tires heating up real quick, and I decided to back off a little bit, especially noticing when I was in a odd restart position if we got a yellow. So I just kind of hung out there for a little bit, saved what tires I had left, and also made a decision to keep shifting gears down to third. I really think that helped me rotate out of the corners and helped a lot.
Yeah, we noticed that shifting, something that I don't really think I saw anybody else doing, but you certainly made it work there towards the end. Now, as far as next week, we go to obviously Lucas Oil. This was a big track here tonight, but do you feel like you can carry the momentum over from the second place finish and maybe go battle for a win next week?
Man, I hope so. It's the home track for me, so yeah, hopefully we can carry some of this luck forward.
Well, there you go. I'll tell you what, Jason, before we let you head out tonight, is there anyone that you want to thank or shout out after a good finish?
Yeah, absolutely. Grindstone Developments for sponsoring this series. James and the other admins, of course, teammates of Midpack Racing, and of course the wife for putting up with me.
Jason, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the second place finish, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
All right, and now that is going to bring us up to your final podium finisher here tonight, the man who takes home third, and that is none other than the 4 of Andrew Hale. Andrew, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
Well, you take home the third spot here tonight, and again, it could have this wrong. Obviously, do a lot of leagues, but I believe this was your first race of the season. If that is the case, obviously a lot of momentum coming into from last season, but what was the difference here tonight? What did you find there towards the end that you were able to get a good finish and move up 3 spots from where you started the race at?
Yeah, there at the beginning, I was just going to ride, and then 29 got into somebody and checked up harder than I expected, but we hit him, went to the back, and I should have did my fast repair, but I didn't. Let's just say that. I rode around back there shifting, trying to get the thing to turn, just waiting for a caution, hopefully. We got one, took some tires, took my fasty, and just took the passes as they come.
They came pretty quickly towards the end there, and you needed to make moves, and you made them happen. But, I look forward in the schedule, and obviously, you may not be able to make every race, but the ones that you make, is there one you got circled on where you could potentially get that next big win at?
I have to look at the schedule here. Definitely like a true short track for these cars. Martinsville's sort of more wide open. IRP will be a tire management. I don't know if I can make that one next week. Stafford, Slinger will be badass. Kern, Bristol's still wide open, and then Five Flags will be amazing.
Well, looking forward to it, Andrew. It's a good podium for you here tonight. So before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
I want to thank Grindstone Development for helping put this thing on with James. You guys up in the booth for broadcasting this thing, making it fun for us.
And Andrew, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on that third place finish, and we will hopefully see you either next week or the one after that.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. That's Andrew Hale, your third place finisher here tonight. And with that, we are going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Martinsville Speedway. Much better race. Of all the races we've had so far this season, you could tell the difference here tonight. A lot cleaner. Only a couple of cautions for a short track and an elite model stock. Pretty impressive on these guys' part. They cleaned it up, but it is still James Harris who finds his way to victory lane. Third one of the season for him, but great runs for Jason Ethery and Andrew Hale. We'll be back next week at Lucas Oil IRP. Looking forward to that one. As for tonight, as always, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. I'm Austin Green from PGR eSports, and until next time, have a good night.